Okay, it's 3 minutes past 7. We'll start the presentation. Welcome to this COLPAI webinar. We have the team here today to provide an update and to answer any questions. This webinar will be recorded and put on the website in the coming days. We'll start with a round of introductions, followed by a presentation by our contractor ISG, and then there'll be a Q&A session afterwards. Please use the chat function to ask any questions at any time, and we will answer these at the end of the presentation. My name's Jessica Stewart and I work for ComCom UK. We've been involved with COLPAI since the planning application, and we're involved in the ongoing communications to support construction. I'll pass over to Paul.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Paul Merter. I'm the Assistant Director for Housing and Republican.
Mark.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Lohman. I represent the City Surveyors Department for the City of London Corporation.
Michael.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Gwyther-Jones, Head of New Developments and Special Projects, Community and Children's Services.
Sandra.
Hi everybody, I'm Sandra Brown, Senior Communications Officer working with Michael Gwyther-Jones in Developments and Special Projects.
John.
Good evening, John McLeod, Project Director for ISG.
And Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Christopher Sharp from ComCom UK, and I work alongside Jess.
Thank you, everybody. We'll now pass over to John to take you through his presentation.
Do you want to make that full screen, or are we going to start with that? Okay. Okay. If we go on to the first actual photographic slide. So what we're seeing there is images of the north and south elevations. The image on the left there is the north elevation, and it shows the mast climber at around about level 5. We're building the brickwork at the moment, and our sequence of works there is to build the brickwork to the top of the tower. We then come down, infilling with GRC elements and taking those masts down as we go. And below that, you'll see a scaffold fan. On the right-hand side, that's the south elevation. So you can just see the masts, or the masts that come off level 4 roof area. So that's servicing the south elevation high level with brickwork up to level 10 there. And below is the brown brickwork there on the elevation, which is immediately adjacent to Basterfield Service Road. So we struck the first couple of sections of scaffold. They were still going to get back up there, infill those core holes and clean the elevation. But we'll build the brickwork and then we'll do that cleaning as a last activity. And on the front there, you can see the scaffold protection fans and the hoarding. Next slide, please. Okay, on the left there, the east elevation, so both masts there deployed around about level 11 and 12. If you look sort of closely, you can see the GRC elements, which is the glass reinforced concrete, which is a fascia panel which goes across the building. We've built there, we've put the fascias in on level 6, 8. That's level 10 also being progressed, and level 12. So we're doing the even numbers first, then we start to bring down the masts and do the odd numbers. The reason we do that is because we've got ties in on with the mast tie into the building for rigidity, and as we remove mast sections and ties, we infill the GRC at those levels. Below you can see precast concrete banding on the lower levels, and it sort of picture frames the brickwork openings. You've got the duplex apartments there on levels 1 and 2 and the fan. And on the right hand side, we've got the west elevation. That's our hoist tower and our staircase. It's a little bit difficult for us to build the GRC around those elements, so we're going to do a little bit where we can on that, but basically those mast climbers are used to install all the balustrade sections, the lower levels of brickwork, and then they will come down with the hoist and the stair core very shortly. Next slide, please. Okay, it's a picture of the internals. So here we have the basement plant room. You can see some of the storage units and the boilers in the distance there, and the pipe work installed there and being lagged with insulation. And in the center image is actually an image from one of the balconies, and that's where the services basically come through the central risers. They feed into the walkways, they run through the walkways at high level, and then they move into the units above the main doorways. So you see the typical service entrance into the flats. There is a false ceiling, a sort of cement board ceiling, which goes over those services and hides them. And there you'll see just below that service entry, that's a hanging lintel detail there, which has not been pointed up yet, but that's a feature of what we're doing here, is a sort of brickwork hanging lintel. On the right hand side, you've got a service cupboard. So on your left hand side of that is the heat interface unit, which is provided in every flat, and that's where all your water and your energy comes from. There's a meter there, an individual meter, which is shown on the right hand side lower level, and then various socket outlets and conduits. And what's not shown, what you can't quite see there is a ventilation unit there, which basically ductwork comes from that ventilation unit, runs above the ceiling, and feeds the apartment. And on the right hand side there is some soil and vent pipe work. So that's your the main service cupboard, which is in every apartment. Next slide, please. Okay, a couple more images of the walkways here. So on the right hand side, that is actually, I should have changed that. It's actually not glass reinforced concrete. That's a precast soffit section there. We do a mixture of precast and GRC, so that's a precast section. In the middle there, we've got what we call the fab light, which is a brick slip system, which sits above the balcony private windows. So what you'll see there, the green tape there is used as protection over the windows, but that is basically your a window. Within that you have a door to that space, and you can move on to your private balcony space from that area. These soffits are far less serviced, so what you see up on the soffit there is some temporary lighting, temporary emergency lighting for the construction work, but there is drainage work there which feeds from the walkways above and then drains those walkways. And in the concrete area there at ground level, you can see there's some drains there. So what's left to do there is we screed and put a roof membrane over that screed, and then pave that walkway, and we put a suspended ceiling on that concrete soffit there. So yeah, that's a typical section through a private balcony area there. And the view there on the right hand side is the core, basically. So again, a mixture of fab light at high level, some hanging lintel areas, and some solid brickwork to the actual main core area itself. And further on down the right hand side, you can see the same sort of development as what you've seen on the left hand image there. That's a balcony section there, private balcony section. And where you see the upstand of concrete on the walkway, that's where you get a division screen, so a privacy screen, which sort of demarcates your private area. Okay, next slide, please. Internally, these photographs don't really do the areas justice yet, I'm afraid, but the kitchens are going in there. That's a typical kitchen. The worktop has been protected there with some Corex material, but that is your typical kitchen. It's a Howden's kitchen. Comes integrated with a kitchen, an oven, a hob, and a hood. It's a nice, robust kitchen area and a tiled splashback. And on the right-hand side there, what you've got is your bathroom area, so you can see the bath in there on your right. Again, a tiled surround to the bath, and that's the vanity unit starting to be installed in front there. The floor is, you may not be able to pick it up on the image there, but the floor is a tiled, grey tiled floor, so it's quite a nice contrast with the white tiles. Okay, next slide, please. This is one of how the main lobbies will look throughout the building. So you have two internal lifts, and that is one of the lifts with doors left open. We're actually testing that at the time we took this picture. So the image there shows some weights in the bottom of the lift. But yeah, that's the lift energized and being tested. And on the right hand side there, that is an array of service cupboards. So that's where all your main services come through the building, up those service risers, and then they distribute from there into the balcony areas, and from there into the apartments. Next slide. Okay, working hours and COVID guidance. So working hours still Monday to Friday, 8 till 6 and 9 till 2 on a Saturday. We are not intending working the Easter weekend, so we will shut down on the Friday, or shut down on Thursday evening, I should say. We won't be working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. In terms of where we are with coronavirus, we're still working to build UK guidance, which basically advises anybody who is infected to stay off work until they get a clear test. But that's around, I think the actual guidance is they have to have a clear test on day 5 or 6. Guidance is changing all the time. So we keep abreast with that, and our health and safety departments keep us advised of any changes. See, it's still quite rife in terms of infections at the moment. So you know, we're continuing vigilance in terms of management of hygiene and welfare areas, etc. But the government guidance there's links to that on that slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so project timeline, we're still on for completion in September later this year. Some key milestones coming up. So we will be starting to remove hoists and mast climbers in May, June 22. We've got some temporary substations on site, and you probably would have noticed that there's some quite high level temporary offices above those substations. So that setup will be removed from May 2022, and that will be followed by all the site huts, which will go in June 2022. Commencement of the external works really starts in earnest after that, after those temporary hutting have been removed from site, and that will include the main entrance area for the school, but also the Muga area between the school and the tower. So the school entrance area will really, and that internal Muga area will be the last areas that will complete on the landscaping side at the end of the project. So I think that's my last slide. Is it, Jessica?
Yes, it is, John.
Okay.
We haven't got any questions today, but I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation. It's fantastic to see the progress, and it's lovely to see actual kitchens and bathrooms going in and it's becoming reality. I'll just check there are no more questions. There aren't. So thank you very much to everyone for attending this evening. Thank you for all of your hard work in putting the presentation together. And we will see everyone again in July. All the best.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.